As of today, Tuesday, October 22nd, we have 18 million early voters who have already cast their votes. 150 million votes were cast in the 2020 presidential election. So let's get into this article from CNN because, again, I find it really interesting the kind of spin that happens used to disenfranchise voters. For one example, they talk about an interesting development in the data is that there are more Republicans than Democrats have cast ballots, for example, in Nevada. It could also mean that those Republicans are voting Democrat and that they're voting for Kamala Harris. On that subject, let's chat about North Carolina. Nearly equal percentages of Republicans, Democrats, and independents have cast ballots in North Carolina so far. I truly believe that many, if not most, independents are going to be going to Kamala, and many Republicans who are registered as Republicans are also going to be voting for her. Some good news for democracy overall. 1.4 million ballots have already been cast in North Carolina. Now let's talk about Georgia, where 1.7 million votes have already been cast, and the total number of votes was 5 million in 2020. 2 weeks out, and we're already at almost 2 million votes, and the record is 5 million. People are excited. And some more news that I take as good news. Oh, look at that. 55% of those votes have been done by females. 55. Look at that. And I don't expect that to change too much. There are more registered females than males all throughout America. And because I would want to be left out of the both sidism, the bad news is that age 65 and over are almost 40% of those ballots cast. 65 and over. Come on, you all. We know that old people vote in larger numbers, but what the 65 and over has 40%. They're not the biggest voting group. We've got to get the vote out still. 64% are white folk. So take from that what you will. It's going to be hard to predict anything, as I've been saying about the polls, and even these initial numbers, which are, by the way, not polls, they're stats from early voting from these specific states. I think the most important thing for all of us to keep in mind is we must continue to get the vote out. And even as you start to hear that, oh, there's 22 million people, there's 50 million people who have early voted, continue to remind people of what is at stake and not allow them to become complicit. White folk and older folk who are voting, and that doesn't mean they're not voting for Kamala. I don't think we should assume that, just like registered Republicans aren't necessarily all voting for Trump. But we got to get the vote out. Speaking of early voting, look at that. Look at how many states early voting is open. That is 40 states. Are you in one of these states? Have you voted yet? And also, have you tweeted, Facebooked, shared it on TikTok? Because that helps encourage people also. Make sure that you show that you voted. Share that online. Encourage others. Get out the vote.